Hello and welcome to Itsy Bitsy Book Bits. Today I'm going to read to you from Pilot Who Knows the Waters, a Lord Hani Mystery by N.L. Holmes. Chapter 1. Spring, harvest season for wheat and barley, had poured itself generously over the two lands, and on the farm the labourers were bent over, sickles in hand, a line of white, red and black, moving methodically across the vast golden fields. Despite Hani's misgivings about the politics of the kingdom, he had to confess life was good. The harvest would be rich that year. His granaries would be full. He might even have to build another one. His wife, Nub-nefer, slipped an arm around his waist and said in a dreamy voice, "It's been so nice to have you here in Waset, my love, and it's been so good for the grandchildren. I hope the king never gets around to reassigning overseas missions." They were standing in the road between the house and its vegetable gardens and the broader fields of grain. The sun stretched overhead, a vast, piercingly blue canopy like lapis lazuli, shot with the bright flash of pigeon wings as a flock settled in the stubble to glean. Hani drew a deep breath of satisfaction, squeezing Nub-nefer to his side. Perhaps the queen had decided against her special assignment for him after all. Months had passed since she had summoned him to say, "Be ready," and still no word had come that would send him on the long voyage north to Ketarland. In the same way, Hani's lessons with the crown prince had ended as other subjects with which the lad needed to be familiar arose. Familiar, but certainly not expert. How much of a foreign language can one learn in a year? I'm afraid, as Nedjem said, the boy's going to be half learned. Prince Tut-ankh-aten's tutor had never seemed enthusiastic about turning any part of the lad's education over to anyone else, and perhaps he had finally had his way. But the upshot was, Hani had been able to enjoy a few months of nearly uninterrupted leisure with his family. And Waset had become an especially exciting place to be in the last year because of the liturgies at the Ipet Isut. The great shrine of Amen-Ra had resumed. Hani glanced sideways at his wife, whose serene gaze told him how her years of anger and anxiety had melted away. Once more she had taken up her duties as a chantress of the Hidden One. Her brother had emerged from hiding and was again praising Amen-Ra in his office of third prophet. One could easily believe all the chaos of the last reign was over, and that good times were on their way back, surging irresistibly up the river toward them like the golden bark of the Hidden One on festival days. "Maybe we should turn back. What do you think?" Nub-nefer asked. "The girls may be getting worried about us." Hani doubted it, but he smiled tenderly at his wife. "Of course, my dear. It's hot out here in the full sun anyway. A suntan won't hurt me, but I'm sure you don't want one." They turned, and their hands linked like a pair of newlyweds, began their leisurely walk back toward the farmhouse. The couple had only gone a few cubits before a cloud of dust appeared ahead, bursting from the farmyard, which soon resolved itself into the running figure of their grandson, Tepi. The 10-year-old pounded down the road toward them, his elbows pumping, his harulok flying. A chill of fear seized Hani by the throat. Dear gods, has something happened to Sati or one of the children? But Tepi skidded to a halt in front of his grandparents, his eyes bright with excitement, not fear. Panting, he cried, "Grandfather, there's a messenger from the queen at the house. He's told me to get you right away." Nub-nefer shot her husband an anxious glance. She knew as well as Hani what that meant. Hani could feel his happiness draining away, like the receding waters of the inundation, leaving cold trepidation in its wake. "Thanks, son," he said to Tepi with a forced smile. "Let's see what the queen wants." The three picked up their pace and made their way through the rows of lettuce, onions, and freshly planted cowpeas and into the low-walled enclosure around the house. Geese scattered, squawking their indignation as the humans entered, while Tepi danced around in anticipation of something momentous. In the salon, Satwut Haru sat with her children and her sister-in-law and cousin, Mutnoflet. Myriet-amen, Hani's eldest girl, lay immobile but bright-eyed and lovely, as she had for more than half her life after a terrible crime had left her paralyzed. The young mothers sprang to their feet, and only then did Hani see in the shadows of the small room a rather splendidly dressed gentleman rising at the same time. Under a long court wig, his face had that look of sleek impassivity that said, high-level royal functionary. The man's hands were clasped loosely in front of him, but he didn't look altogether at ease. "Papa!" Myriet-amen cried, her voice pleasant, but relief was only too obvious beneath it. "This man has brought you a message from the king's great wife. He looked for you in Wasset, but the servants told him you were up here." Hani advanced toward the messenger and, being unclear about the man's rank, greeted him with a sketchy sort of bow. "You've had a long journey. I'm sorry you had to come this extra distance. How may I help you?" The man's expression grew a little tart, as if he, too, was sorry about the additional iterus. "Our lady has a message for your ears only, Lord Hani. Where can we speak?" Hani was on the verge of telling him, "These people can hear anything you have to say," but already Nub-nefer had discreetly begun to round up the children and their toys. She said, "We'll go up to the roof, where there's more breeze. You men say whatever you want to say right here." In a minute, the three women and the little ones had hustled up the stairs, and the servants carried Baket's couch up after them. Tepi gave a look of curiosity and longing over his shoulder as he trailed in their wake. With the disappearance of the family, a nervous silence fell. Finally, the messenger said in a low voice, "I'm sure you know what this is about, my lord. The Queen, Our Lady, wants you to be advised that the time has come to make your, journey." He fixed Hani with his painted eyes as if to convey without words what they both realized that meant. Hani knew only too well. A chill ran on spider feet up his backbone. He said in an equally guarded tone, "Is she satisfied that Lord I won't oppose us? He's aware of her intention, of course." The messenger tipped his head. "There's an uprising in Ta-Nehesi. The god's father, Lord I, and General Har-em-Heb have gone south to put it down." "So that's why Queen Meryet-amen has chosen this precise moment to send me north. Very well. I'll leave immediately. Does she want me to meet with her before I go?" "No, my lord. She wants you to get outside the borders of the kingdom as soon as possible. Gifts of exchange, your military escort, and sea-going ships await you at Per-Nefer. Speak to the garrison commander there." "I have no reply then, but I invite you to stay the night here before you start back to the capital." The man bobbed a grateful bow, his cool expression thawing. "Appreciated, Lord Hani." Hani called a servant to show the man to a guest room, that seemed more appropriate than a pallet in the servants' quarter, and stumped heavily up the stairs and onto the roof terrace. "Nub-nefer, my dove, a word with you." She rose from where she sat on her heels on the smooth, packed clay surface, playing cat's cradle with little Henutsen. Her eyes were anxious beneath her smile. Two of them retreated to the stairwell, where Hani took his wife by the shoulders. "The Queen has finally sent me on that mission I told you about." Hope flared across Nub-nefer's white coal-edged eyes grew fierce. "At last! Now the Aten will go back where he came from, and the Hidden One will reign again." It warmed Hani's heart to see his wife's indomitable faith. Still, he wasn't so sure he saw good things following from this journey. His mission was to bring back to Kemet a bridegroom for the queen, so that as soon as her mother, the she-king, should die, and Queen Meryet-amen apparently had reason to think that would be sooner rather than later, the girl would share the throne with him and reinstate the old cults. But the bridegroom would be a Hittite prince, which was so unimaginable that Hani could still hardly believe the young queen was going through with it. Quetta was the rival of the two lands. While Hani wasn't opposed to more friendly relations between the kingdoms, there would be many who would be scandalized by the plan, even devotees of the Hidden One. He only hoped it didn't end in disaster. Surely the Black Land had lived through more than its share over the past 14 years. I need to leave immediately. I told the messenger he could stay the night, but as soon as I can pack, I'm taking off. I'll pick up Maya in Wasat. All right, my dearest. Write to us often. I'll send the other children your love. Maybe I'll see Aha when I pass through Aket-aten. Or maybe not. This is hardly news I'd want him to think too closely about. Aha, Hani's firstborn, was a devotee of the Aten. And Neferet and Benerib. I guess Pa Kiki will be on his way to Ta Nehesi with our friend Har Emheb. Hani looked around, suddenly missing a familiar face. Where is father? He must be outside somewhere. Bucket said a messenger brought him a letter, and he went to the garden to read it. You surely want to say goodbye to him. As old as he is, one never knows. That thought sat, chill as the walls of a deep well, in Hani's gut. He had started reflecting on it more and more. His beloved father, while healthy in age, was 74, a ripe sum of years. As much as Hani hated the thought, Merida wouldn't live forever. And if I were to be gone when he passes over, Hani wasn't sure he could forgive himself. I'll be sure to see him before I go. Now, Hani told himself, before I get involved in packing. He set off through the farmyard. Near the low wall that separated the little yard from the agricultural fields, Hani's father stood, his back turned, seemingly reading something. Merida was an older version of Hani, broad to the point of squat, with powerful shoulders and a cheerful, square-jowled face. Hani felt overcome with a burning wave of tenderness. No one could have been a better parent. Merida turned as Hani approached, and he slipped whatever he had been reading behind his back. Hani thought from the glimpse he caught that it looked like a clay tablet. Why, Hani, in the fields! The old man clapped him jovially on the shoulder and smiled his welcome, but his eyes shifted sideways in a guilty glance. What are you up to, father? Hani couldn't resist a teasing grin. Oh, just a letter from an old friend. What leads you to prowl around the garden, son? Hani's smile grew tight. A messenger just came from... Merida's thick black eyebrows rose. I wondered whose big boat that was tying up. She's ready for my mission to Quetta. Merida's eyes widened, then narrowed in what might have been a considering look. After a moment he said, Ah, my boy, this could be dangerous. You need protection. Mena and Para Mesu will be leading the escort, Hani assured him. They're both loyal to the Queen. Soldiers, yes, but who's going to be your eyes and ears? Hani had a sense he knew where his father was leading and said firmly, Maya, I need you to protect the women in our absence, which will certainly be a number of months. It seems to me, my boy, that what you need is a battle-tried emissary at your side to feel people out, someone with long experience dealing with foreigners, one who speaks Neshite. Merida looked up at Hani with a sly grin that bared the gap between his front teeth. But Hani was adamant. No, father, this is going to be a very hard journey. We'll be travelling as fast as we can with the fewest number of breaks, and the gods know how many people will be out to stop us from getting to Hattusha. All the more reason you need me. I've been to Hattusha. Merida crossed his arms, triumphant. Hani jerked back in surprise. You have? I didn't know that. You were only 4 at the time. Trust me, son, there's plenty you don't know. No, absolutely no. This is dangerous. And by the Lord Jehuti, it's an official mission for the Queen. I can't just bring my relatives along for a lark. Hani had an unpleasant father had already considered such an objection. Sure enough, Mary Ra said smugly, You'll have staff, won't you? I'm a better scribe than most of those youngsters whose script looks like they've written it with their left feet. Knowing he was defeated, Hani shook his head, lips compressed and face hot with the pressure of all the riposts that wanted to fly out. I'm leaving by mid-afternoon, and anyone who isn't ready will be left behind. That's my boy. You'll be amazed at how useful your old papa is. People don't take a venerable gentleman all that seriously. They'll reveal things to me you'd never get out of them. The 2 men set off toward the house, stride for stride, while the geese and ducks scattered at their feet. Hani knew better than to hope to change his father's mind. He couldn't imagine what had put the idea into Mary Ra's head, but there would be no moving him. Mary Ra was as cheerfully stubborn as his granddaughter, Neferet, and Hani could imagine that the old man would probably be helpful. Still, the danger?